Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about why this is a different election than 2016 and 2020, and why in 2024 you're going to see a very different national environment than the previous two cycles. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below, and drop a comment in the comment section. And so guys, this is a completely different national environment compared to just 4 or even 8 years ago. We could even go back to 2016. We see Donald Trump put on a masterclass performance and beat Hillary Clinton with 306 electoral college votes to her 232 electoral college votes by flipping the Rust Belt, which no Republican had done since the 1980s as of late. And even a state like New Hampshire, which had been trending Democrat, had basically come within half a point. States like Minnesota that hasn't voted Republican since 1972, came within 2 points of flipping. Colorado shifted back quite a bit, even voted to the right of Virginia that election. And Nevada was getting significantly closer compared to just a few years back. And so you did see a very big, populist shift within the electorate. Even a state like Maine at large was within 3 points of flipping. Nebraska's second state. And in 2020, you saw, the incumbent president run up the score with turnout. He was able to get way more votes the next time. However, Biden was much more popular than Clinton and was kind of able to write off the coronavirus, the wokeism stuff. He was able to write off the BLM riots, all these social factors, all these things that went wrong for incumbent President Trump at the time. And he barely scraped by with Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona. Now, going into the election, this election, Donald Trump had a 45% approval rating. Biden had a 52% approval rating. And in 2016, Trump had a 37% approval rating. Clinton, however, had a 42% approval rating. So you could tell based on those elections, just looking at the approval rating data, that you'd expect a close race, considering even in 2016, there was a larger third party vote share that election. And so you could have been able to deduce that Clinton was going to underperform the differential in the approval ratings between both of them. Now, Biden was a little bit different because there was less third-party vote candidates. And so essentially, you did kind of have Biden be able to retain most of that base, that would have gone away with third-party candidates. However, now, if we look at, for example, 2020, right? If we look at the polling, the entire cycle, Trump never led Biden, barely came close. I mean, within 3 points, but that was the closest he got, was April 11th of 2020. But ever since then, he was always, 6 points, behind or even higher. At one point, Biden even led him by 10 points according to 538. And the final result ended up being, a plus 4.5 national environment for President Biden, which is not indicative of a Democrat environment. If the national popular vote would have been D+9, D+8, 10, you would have seen states like Texas flip. You would have seen states like Florida flip. Iowa, Ohio could have possibly been competitive. You could have even seen a South Carolina get within 5 points. Like, you would have seen really big shifts there. However, now, based on the current polling data, Donald Trump is ahead by 2.2 percentage points as of right now, which he has led the one-way aggregate between him and Biden. He's led it since September 11th. And not only that, every single time a legal event has occurred during the campaign, Trump boosts his own numbers. Like in April of last year, when they first indicted him, he rose in the polls after that. When he got his mugshot taken, Biden went from leading by 2 to losing his lead about 2 weeks later. Again, polling data takes time to adjust with new responses and whatnot. However, you clearly see that there is a trend. Every single time Donald Trump comes under legal fire, he goes up in the polls. And from yesterday's basically guilty verdict from the New York case with Stormy Daniels in the hush money trial, I expect nothing but Trump to probably end up improving his polling numbers. And he's never led the aggregate for this long. He's led the aggregate since September 11th and has never looked back since, which is very politically unprecedented for a candidate like Trump, considering he's not an Obama type, he's not a Reagan type of candidate. He's not really regarded in that column of electoral viability, historically by, mainstream pundits. And so I feel like this election is going to surprise a lot of people right now, where Donald Trump may, in fact, be able to win the election very easily. Now, for you guys who watch my videos, you may say, well, that's crazy to say that Trump's going to win in a landslide because he's never have both elections have been close. We haven't had a landslide, a big one since 2008. How could you say Donald Trump is going to win the election fairly easily? I actually have a person, his name is Connor Kay. He does data analyzing, a data analysis for the 2024 presidential election. What he did is he went through the major swing states and essentially looked at the disapproval rating between party ID, gender, race, education, overall disapproval in certain places, and pretty much saw that Donald Trump is dominating all of these swing states. He is ahead quite significantly with most demographics as of right now. Even if we were to go ahead, it's very interesting. We would see, if we go to his other page, you would see a state like Virginia. He groups everything by age demographics, and we see Trump has a 1.3 percentage point lead. And the latest poll out of Virginia in a head to head matchup actually has the race competitive. The race is, in fact, tied. And, just to give you an idea, look at the polling from 2020. You see plus 16, plus 18, plus 15, plus 11 plus 11 again, plus 12. Now the polling looks starkly different compared to before. Now you see, February, Biden had, high single digit leads. However, never above 10 points ever since September 5th. And even then, at that point in time, Trump was actually tied in Virginia, even back in September. The last time Biden led a poll by double digits in Virginia against Biden was May of 2023 with a very low sample size compared to other polls. You even see here that Biden's ahead by 7 in this poll with undecided voters. And so clearly something is definitely going on here. And Trump internals came out, showed the race competitive. However, a new poll that is not party affiliated shows the race competitive without third party voters, and with third party candidates, Trump only loses by 2 in the state. And my forecast actually has the state at 0.4 percentage points Republican as of right now. And the aggregate is very competitive. And not only that, a state like New York, my model has it at an 11-point victory. Right now, the polling aggregate there looks ridiculously bad for Biden, considering this is a state he won by 23 percentage points in the 2020 election. If you look at the polling data now, it is way closer than what it was before. You do have this 1+19 poll that did come out, but the last time Biden led by double digits here, you know, by over 20 points, was in September of 2023. He didn't even lead by that much in this Slingshot Strategies poll. As of right now, all these polls have been low, double digit, high single digit leads for the incumbent president. Trump has been gaining in the polling ever slowly but surely. He's actually been gaining in polling as we keep going up and up and up this election cycle. Now Trump sits at a mere 38% in the state of New York. And with undecideds, basically pushed together, Trump wins or actually loses the state by 10, which is around where my model has it as of right now. And not only that, you are seeing a trend with Hispanic, African American, and young voters. The young demographic, maybe because, due to inflation, due to the housing market being very difficult for people to get a job, you do have the Israel Hamas conflict, which leaves a lot of, hardcore liberals disaffected from Biden. With African Americans, I believe the political indictments are also helping him with Hispanics as well, with the African American vote. The economy is definitely a big thing. And the false promises from the Biden administration that have really not been covered that much. Biden has not, was not the one who gave money to HBCUs. It was, in fact, Donald Trump that actually did that. So there is a huge political shift happening where Donald Trump is leading the aggregate. The polling looks a lot different. Biden's approval rating on net is almost 20 points lower than what it was back then, even at the beginning of his presidency, he basically had the opposite approval rating. If you would have held an election in the beginning of January of 2021, Biden probably would have been able to pick off a state like Missouri at that point. He probably would have been able to win Indiana. He probably would have been able to pick off Montana because Trump's approval rating was also really bad at the time. So you could have seen a large landslide election for Biden in the beginning of 2021, but now it's quite the opposite. And to kind of give you guys just an idea of what that would look like on an electoral map, you see all these safe states Trump won, in 2020 by quite a significant amount. Biden, is going to struggle a lot with white working class voters. He'll gain a lot with suburban white voters, but when it comes to these demographics with white working class voters, he's definitely going to struggle with that category. Even states like Iowa and Ohio are going to go into the safe column, in my opinion. My model shows them as very large victories, 18 points for both states. However, I think, my personal prediction is that they're going to vote like 16, 15 points respectively. Ohio may even be borderline likely. Texas and Florida are going to be high victories, high likely victories. You might see Texas vote, 11 points for Trump, Florida by 13. And even in Florida, you see Democrats were leading in voter registration by 82,000 votes in 2020 on election day. Now, Republicans lead by 850,000 votes there. So the possibility of Trump winning the state by over 10 is definitely on the table. States like California, Hawaii, I still expect to be safe despite the Maui fires. I still think it'd be safe Democrat. DC, Maryland, Massachusetts, Vermont, we see those states being safe. Rhode Island, I could see them being likely alongside Delaware and New Jersey. I'd expect New York to also fall into that likely category. I actually think it's going to be closer than what my model actually suggests. That's one of the only states that I think is actually going to vote to the left of, or excuse me, to the right of my model. As of right now, states like Colorado and Illinois, I'd expect to go in the likely Democratic column. Washington and Oregon, the exact same thing as well. Now, I did mention that Donald Trump is improving with African American and Hispanic voters. That's why you see this humongous shift in some of these states like Washington, Oregon, New Jersey, Delaware, Connecticut, New York, Illinois, all the way to the right, including Colorado, because of these massive shifts. Now, Colorado is going to trend to the left compared to the rest of the national environment, but it's still going to be a lot closer than the 13-point victory. And if you notice, all the likely Democratic states on the map are actually going to be, were safe states in 2020 for Biden, except for Colorado, which speaks a lot to Biden's underperformance with some of these demographics. I also expect North Carolina to be likely. I expect Georgia to be a likely Republican state, probably a 6-point victory for Trump. North Carolina, my personal prediction, 8 points for Trump. And that kind of leaves Trump at 251 electoral college votes. And Maine's first, I expect to go likely Democrat. Nebraska's second, I actually think would be a really easy victory for Trump just because of the fact they actually did redistrict this area. And that redistricting process did favor Republicans. So I wouldn't expect anything less but a Republican boost in Nebraska's second. Now, I do expect Maine at large and New Hampshire to stick to President Biden because you are seeing a very large shift with white suburban voters to the left. And even though I think some suburbs are going to shift to the right, I think some suburbs, especially in the Northeast, may continue to trend left or swing left a little bit. So you may see states like New Hampshire and Maine at large vote for incumbent President Biden by around 2 or 3 percentage points as of right now. I even expect a state like Arizona to be like a 4-point victory for Trump. I think the state's going to trend left off a cliff this cycle. However, I do think it's still going to vote for Trump by a larger margin than what it did in 2016, which was a 3.5-point victory for the former president in 2016. Nevada is interesting because it actually looks like it's going to vote likely Republican just based off my personal analysis. We see the polling data out of here, and it is huge because Trump was trailing the polling data by over 5 points. Now Trump is ahead by 6.2%. And this state has a very large Hispanic population, has a lot of white working class voters. And so I can see the state actually voting for Trump by around 6 or 7 points. And it wouldn't be that hard. Even, if we were to go to my in-depth breakdown analysis, we'd even see, for example, this model currently has Arizona at around a 10-point victory for Trump based off of age demographics. And if we go to a state like Georgia, you're going to see the margin is basically around 6.9 percentage points, which is around what I'm guesstimating for the state. And if we look at Pennsylvania, we even see around a 10-point victory for Donald Trump in this state, which would be absolutely huge in a state like Pennsylvania. That would be absolutely crucial to a defeat for Joe Biden. And Trump's already at 269 electoral college votes with what I just listed out. And we have still yet to fill in the Rust Belt and Virginia and New Mexico. Now, my gut does tell me that Virginia is going to be a lot closer. It's going to be very competitive. I'm tilting it towards Biden for now. I think it's going to be a sleeper flip for the Republicans, but I think Virginia barely stays in Biden's column due to the massive shifts for Democrats here. New Mexico, on the other hand, not so much. I think it might actually be a flip for the former president in this scenario. I think Donald Trump would more than likely win it very, very narrowly, but I think it's going to barely favor him here. I think Trump's going to possibly get the Hispanic vote within 10 percentage points. You know, he did score around 37% in 2020 of the Hispanic vote. I expect him to get around 44, 45% right now. And so that's why you're seeing a state like New Mexico flip. Now, Wisconsin, Michigan, you know, Pennsylvania, all these states right here, I expect Donald Trump to also pick those states up, you know, by, you know, high lean margins. So Wisconsin, 4.5, Michigan, like 3, Pennsylvania within 3 and 4, essentially. I'd kind of see that being the margins here. Now, you know, my forecast does have it as a likely margin, but for this video, I am kind of just going off my gut, just basically to say, you know, if I had to pick what the margin would be, just get based off my own personal prediction, this is more than likely what I'd be predicting for the states as of right now. You'd see white suburban, you know, kind of areas shift towards Democrats a bit, but you'd see white working class areas shift to Republicans. So you're going to notice that the class of a voter is going to actually impact the way they vote even more than, you know, the way the race, for example. You're going to see that start to unfold with the white vote quite significantly. And Minnesota is the final state on here. I think Donald Trump narrowly picks off the state of Minnesota because of the fact that you do see the polling, you know, within half a point according to Decision Desk HQ. The polling aggregate both elections underestimated Trump, and you are seeing a huge shift in the Rust Belt states with, you know, white working class voters. And a state like Minnesota does have a similar demographic. And not only that, you're seeing, you know, the Israel Hamas conflict, you know, really affect turnout in a place like Hennepin County, where Biden performed extremely well in 2020. That was one of the reasons why he was able to have such an impressive victory there, despite Trump probably improving in the rules just a tiny bit, you know, from, you know, 2012. And so that is basically going to put the state in the till Republican column. So my personal prediction basically has him at 328 electoral college votes to Joe Biden's 210 electoral college votes. If you guys disagree with me, make sure to comment down below. If you guys have another suggestion for a video, make sure to go ahead and comment that as well. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord server in the description down below. And I will see you guys very, very soon.